Hey guys, it's Chris here with this week's creative class, and we're going to call this one the DSP Tab Card. So I know you all have super pretty designer series papers, either in your stash, like old Close to My Heart ones, or new Stampin' Up ones that you really like both sides of the paper. And I don't think that we use them enough for cards. So I'm going to share with you today a super fun card. It's nice and easy, but like adaptable to like anything. So I'm going to create two versions of it today with you. The first one, I'm going to do like some watercoloring with the Stampin' Up inks. So I'm going to do the watercoloring first, let it dry, and maybe we'll work on the second version and we'll work on our fold. So I'm going to add my desk in here. I'm going to show you what we're playing with today, all of those fun things. Here we go. Okay, so as you know, this is what the inspiration sheet looks like. So it is in the file section. It is also in the Google Drive for this class. So maybe just turn up a little bit more light here. Okay, we'll move my keyboard out of the way so we don't hit that by accident. Okay, so like I said, I decided to create two different versions of this just to show you actually how simple it is to take it and adapt it to something else. So this is the first one, and it focuses on the lovely Florals Designer Series paper, right? And so lots of times, right, because it's a whole series of papers, like both sides coordinate so well with each other. So let's just show them off. So like instead of just like adding the DSP to the front of your card, let's just make the card out of the DSP. So this is, like I said, a piece of Designer Series paper, and it highlights both sides of it. So obviously, if there's direction in your paper, you need to be careful, right? To make sure that you're doing everything in the right direction. But the fun thing is this just kind of tucks underneath there. Thus the name, the tab, right? So super simple, just a couple of score lines. But I think that you could see by simply swapping out your focal image here, and it literally does not have to be even as decorated or as much as these cards. You could literally just do like a quick sentiment on a circle on the front and have the card work exactly the same way. But it's a great way to use up maybe an end of a pack of paper, or just something that you have lying around to play with to start off with. But it's also like just fun. Okay, so that's the first one, right? And I said like it focuses on the lovely Florals Designer Series paper. And then, so I did separate these two versions out just so that you didn't have like a crazy long supply list for just the, like the, where you had to like separate the items. So I did separate them out. So this is the Charming Day version, and then this is the Gathering Together version, right? And so this is just says, your friendship means the world to me. And so, right, I used a different die for my focal image. And then these are just fussy cut, right? So I'm going to do like watercoloring with my inks for this card. And then this is just fussy cut out of the paper. And then on the inside, it just says, I'm so grateful. And you don't have to add the two layers, right? You can make them as simple or as complex as you wanted. But like I said, we're going to start with this one, and I'm going to get all my parts and pieces ready. But we're going to give the watercoloring some time to dry. So we're going to set this one aside, and then while that stuff is drying, I'll put this one together. My fussy cut pieces might be slightly different, right? I just grabbed one of the pieces from the Gather Together DSP, and I cut it up. And so we're going to just add probably different pieces, the same background piece. But let me just pull out my pieces for our first card and we'll get started. Okay, so I picked a different, on purpose for this one, I picked a different piece of the designer series paper. And so the watercoloring will be just slightly different. I'm just going to add in one more color to pull in the Timid Tiger. But so this piece, I wanted all of my floral images to match. So I just did the purples, which I'll show you in a second. But so we have one piece of designer series paper, and this is just 5.5, right? The typical height of a card. And then I've left it at 12 inches across. We're going to score it in 1 second. I'll grab my paper trimmer for that. So I used the dies. So our front panel, this one we're going to do the White Willow. This one I used Very Vanilla. But these are from the Branching Out dies, which I absolutely love. The dies are part of this bundle, right? And they're just like a really nice nested set, but obviously you could use any set that you wanted. My one for the front, I did a little bit smaller, and then my inside one is just a little bit bigger. We're going to stamp the inside because I'm going to do it the same as this one. Like I said, these pieces are all very vanilla. I'm going to stamp around the edge in 1 second. But I did stamp my front images on Fluid 100 watercolor paper with Memento, and I've left them to dry for a few minutes. Well, overnight actually. But so I have one of the floral images, like the grouped images, and then one of just the single flowers. And these are from the Charming Day collection. Okay, so I also wanted to show you where everything came from first. I'm going to grab the one stamp for stamping our insides. So I have just the single floral, oops, sorry, and the little vine. There we go. Okay, I'll move this aside. This is our piece for stamping on the inside. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to score the paper. And then literally, if that's all you need to create your own, you are off to the races. These are my extra pieces for the front of the card there too. Super simple scoring also. These are my embellishments. So I did pick the coordinating embellishment for Charming Day, which is called Charming Shimmer Faceted Dots. And then I'm going to use on both cards, because it coordinated with both, the Early Espresso and Old Olive linen thread. So I have those. I'll set those aside. I have some foam strips, my water brush, my inks. So on my original one here, I did not use the Timid Tiger. We're going to use that today because obviously you can see how it matches. I just used the Berry Burst and Mossy Meadow. And then my sentiment stamping is with the Early Espresso for both cards. Okay, so we'll put those there. I'll move these aside. We're going to... That's our front panel. I'll move that over there. Okay, so I just want to make enough room for my trimmer. And I do have my glass mat because I'm going to be watercoloring. Okay, so here we go, right? I have it right side up. But I want this piece to be the front of my card. And so to score, I'm just going to move these out of the way. Behind me for a second. Okay, so I'm going to score my front, right? So it's a regular card front. at 4 1/4. So you'll see I flipped it upside down, and I'm just going to score. And don't be crazy hard with your scoring blade, because it is just DSP. And then I'm going to do 8 1/2. And then 10 1/4. Okay. So you'll see it comes together super quickly, right? So here's my card. And then this, I'm just folding on my score lines now. Sorry, just one side's easier for me to see than the other, to get them all burnished. Okay, so we're literally done, right? So we are going to adhere our tab piece together. This also gives it a little bit more stability to be sliding in behind our other piece all the time. Okay, so now we have everything all together, and it's as easy as that. So I'm going to first stamp at my inside piece. Because this one will still have to dry for a few seconds before we start our watercoloring. So you can see here, right, I just used those images to stamp off the edge. I'll fill it in with the just however much you want. Okay, so our inside piece is prepped and ready. And like I said, I did stamp my watercolor pieces beforehand. So I'm going to, right, because you can see here, it's got that Timid Tiger color in. So I have my leaf from over there. We have our sentiment piece, which I'll stamp in a second. So I have a single flower for up top, and then the grouping for down here. So this is Timid Tiger. Then I have Mossy Meadow for my foliage. And then Berry Burst. And if you push your tray halfway back, it does actually sit flat. Okay, so I have my little cup of water and my water brush. And I love watercoloring with inks. It might be one of my favorite techniques right now. I can move my stamps out of the way because we're finished with those. We'll stamp our sentiment in a second though. But here we go. I'm just going to wet some of the sections of my watercolor paper. And then I have my Mossy Meadow to start. And I let the water play and move my ink. And I like to have like a little bit of white space still. And then you can also go back and layer, right, to make some of the sections darker. So you can see there's still a little bit of the green left on my brush. So before I go into one of the colors, right, to watercolor my flowers, I'll try and make sure that my most of my color is out. Okay, so I'm just wetting the surface to allow the ink to move. And I'm going to add a little bit more down the middle of the leaf and at the base. And I'm actually going to do all of my green at the same time, other than my inside panel. I'm going to give that a few more minutes to dry, and then we'll do the inside panel. Because that's not watercolor paper, I will use a little bit less water when I'm playing with that. Okay, so now I want to switch my colors, so I'm going to make sure my brush is coming out clean. And I think I'll do this one Timid Tiger and this one Timid Tiger, and then I'll use this as the Berry Burst to bring in, because there is still that Berry Burst on this piece of DSP. So I'm going to do my Berry Burst one first, because I know I'm going to do the other two, right? And first I'm just going to top in color. And this stamped image is well suited to watercolor, but that doesn't mean that you can't just use your blends, or watercolor pencil crayons would be super pretty with this image too. I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to play with the Timid Tiger a little bit now. I'm just going to get a little bit more of my Berry Burst re-inker to, because this is quite diluted right now. And not to say that you can't pull ink off the ink pad. I just prefer to put re-inker in the bottom tray. And then, because I feel like I have more control over how much color I'm getting. But you don't have to do that. You can use your ink pad, no problem. So I'm just making a little bit darker color. That I can add at the base of the leaves, or petals, sorry. Okay, and then I can move that with more water if I want to make it lighter. Here we go. And then I'm going to add another dimension in here to my Timid Tiger. Excuse me, sorry. So I can just do the same thing, adding a little bit of dark to my Timid Tiger. And I can also go back in and add a second layer into my Mossy Meadow that's just a little bit darker down the middle. Or at the base of some of the leaves. Now I'm going to do this one So I'm actually going to go with my leaves first. And like I said, this is just regular basic white. So I'm not going to add a layer of water to it. I'm just using quite diluted ink, because I also don't want it like painted solid, right? It's just supposed to be like a little bit pretty decorative edge to add your message to. So this one, obviously, there's a little bit more work to this card. The other one is pretty quick. So and I am going to add a little bit of color to the center with the early espresso, and we can stamp our sentiment all at the same time. So I'm going to do a few of these, that berry burst. And this is very watered down. I don't want to put a lot of color. I just want just almost like a little bit of just a shadow. So that the centers are darker. Okay, so we're going to put this piece up here. I'm going to move my water brush to the side. I'm going to move my water. And you can keep adding to your images until you are happy with the results. Like I said, I like to have, I like that whimsical, not solid painted kind of watercolor look. So I do leave white space. I do have some of my leaves darker than others. But you can obviously watercolor your images however you enjoy them. Okay, so I'm going to close these up. We'll stamp our thanks for being you. On our circle. And the circle is from the Stylish Shapes dies. Just one of those like perfect kind of essentials. But you can obviously use any die for your message that you would like. Okay, so I think we now have all of our pieces ready to go. The last thing I'm going to do before we move on to the second card, because we're going to do the second card, I'm just going to give my watercoloring a little bit of time to dry. So I'll push them up there. I'm going to, so This one I splattered with the Berry Burst blend. I think I'll use my Timid Tiger blend. Just to add a little bit of some splatter. You could also use your inks. So I'm just going to use my brush tip and I'm going to tap it. And I'm like, I just want it just broken up just a little bit. So like, I didn't go crazy, but you can see it in real life. And the nice thing about, like I said, you could totally do this with your inks and your water brush while you still have the things out. The nice thing about doing that with the blend is it actually dries very quickly. So you don't have to really like let it dry. But we'll set those pieces aside. And now we're gonna, so we're gonna put this aside for a second and we're gonna work on our second card. Which is this one. Okay, so we're going to do our scoring again. So if you missed it the first time, you'll see it again, but don't forget it's on the sketch. No need to worry about it, right? Okay, so I have my trimmer back. I'm going to move that cutting blade out of the way so we don't have an accident. Okay, so this is the piece of paper, right, from the Gathering Together Designer Series paper. I loved all the plaids in this. So for this, I used different things, obviously, right? So we're going to use the same twine. I used the loose gold sequins, the Gathering Moments. We're going to use Your Friendship Means the World to Me. So I'm going to pull that out. Put it on my block. Okay, I'll set that aside for a second. Like I said, we did use the circle on that other card, but on this one, I used the textured notes dies for the inside piece. So we have two pieces for the inside, a piece of the Designer Series paper, and then white that we'll stamp our sentiment on. This is for our Your Friendship Means the World to Me. And then you'll see, so this panel is Designer Series paper. Now I did cut just an extra piece of basic white to put underneath it because this is Designer Series paper. I probably would be fine, but I'm actually going to glue these together to give because this flat piece, right, will take some, like it will get used. I just wanted it to be a little bit stronger. The other fun thing too is that this card front is like completely intact once they've opened their card. So they don't actually have to tuck it back underneath if they don't want to. And when you open the card, you don't see like the back side of any of that stuff that you have on the front, which is kind of why I thought this was really neat. Okay. So like I said, we're going to glue these two pieces together in a second. This is for our sentiment. And then, like I said, I just sat and cut part of the piece of paper up, fussy cut them, and that's what we're going to use. And then for the inside, I did use this stamp set, the Banner Sayings, that has the coordinating punch. And so I'm just going to use this I'm so grateful. But you could use whatever you would like. But so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to score our piece of paper, right? So this is the 5.5 by 12 again. On this one, you don't have to flip around. I'm going to just keep my espresso ink for this card. So my first score is at the 4.25. Then I'm going to do 8.5. And like I said, the you don't have to remember this as you're watching me, right? 10.25, because it's on your sketch. So I'm just gently folding them. Okay, so that is literally it, right? So we're going to glue these two pieces together the same as we did with the first card. So our tab, I guess it could be a flap also. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, our card is ready to go. So let's do our inside first. So like I said, I have this piece of DSP. Under here. Okay. I just wanted to get all my pieces, and I couldn't find my card there. Okay. So here are our front pieces. And we'll open that up when it comes time. So first I'm going to stamp the I am grateful. I'm so grateful. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to adhere these two pieces together. You could do it with glue. I'm just going to do this because this is faster. I would normally do it with glue and just set it aside to dry for a second. Okay, so then we will stamp. Okay, close up my ink. So then, like I said, I just fussy cut out various pieces of the paper. So I'm going to actually add this on dimensionals. Leaving my edges free so that I can tuck my leaves or the mushroom or whatever underneath. So I kind of want a little bit of like kind of every size and color that I have in the to bring in. And I specifically made sure that I had some of the yellow to bring in the yellow that was on the plaid. So like this color, right? Because it will pull in the yellow from the twine. So I'm just going to add these with glue dots. And you can see here, I've even kept ones that were off the edge. So I can take this, for example, and tuck it in underneath, which I'll do right now. And nobody will know that it was the piece that was running off, right, the edge of the paper because I just hit it. You could also wait, obviously, till this panel is on top of your card before you decorate it. It's totally up to you. I'm going to add my mushroom on, and then I'll decide what to tuck in back there. There we go. Okay, so now we are going to adhere this to the card front, and then we make everything come together. So, right, you don't want adhesive on this part of your flap, right? So I can line it up so it's centered. The plaid actually makes everything super easy to line up straight. But now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to add, like I'll add my twine once we get this together. But I can flip it over. And I know, just as this is a good visual to start with this one, right, is you can see here these two little lines. I don't want adhesive past that point. So you can do it with dimensionals. You can do it with anything that you would like. If you have the old, I still have obviously lots of old foam tape and those things, so that works too, right? Okay, so I'm just going to pull my backings off. There we go. And that one is together. So now all we need to do is, right, add our embellishments. So my piece of twine, thread, and then I will add my sequins with glue dots. Okay, so I will always add to my card front and then trim away my tails to the length that I want. And then all I need to do is add a few sequins. And then I will assemble the second one so you can see it again. But I'm sure you all get it. So I'll do one big one kind of tucked in up here. There we go. So this one is all ready to give. So now I'll just assemble the second one again for you to watch. Okay, right? So we've got our card base. I will adhere my inside panel. You also don't need to, like, you could just put in a piece, like a very simple piece of cardstock to write on, and you would be done. Oh, here it is. So I'll pull this one back over. So I can decorate my panel. So first I have my greenery, that's Mossy Meadow. And I did do this one with glue, but we're going to do glue dots, right, for time's sake. Okay, so then I have my big image. My little one. Okay, so this I'm not pushing down until I put my sentiment on. Oh, but first, my twine, I did actually sandwich this in the middle. So So I'm going to add my dimensionals onto here. Okay, and I want this to be about here, and then I can actually just tap my twine onto the top dimensional to catch it, or you can use a glue dot, or you could glue it underneath. I want this one just a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so now, right, our inside's done. Now all we have to do is add this to the front, right? So same thing, I'm centering it so I can see where I don't want my adhesive to go past. I can flip it over. Same thing, right? I can still see. And I'm going to go just a little bit over from that. So there we go. Now I just need to add my gems. And this one I use the light color. I'm going to actually use like the Berry Burst color on this one. There we go. So now our second version is ready to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's class. So don't forget, you will be able to find everything in lots of different spots. Let me just get everything together here. So your inspiration sheet will be in the file section. It's also in the Google Drive. Everything is in this month's guide. I've tagged everything to apply to December 2025. So it's sitting in the December guide. All the photographs are in the Google Drive. This will also be in the albums for interactive cards, where you will find the YouTube link, the Facebook version video, as well as the link to the Google Drive. So I hope you guys all have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.